Let's move on to this now. The Health Department has announced penalties, including salary demotions, after the disciplinary hearing into 3 senior staff regarding the Digital Vibes contract. It found Deputy DG and Dr. Anban Pillay guilty on 1 of 4 charges. Communications head Popo Maja was found guilty on 2 of 4 charges, and Chief of Staff Shireen Padesi guilty on 1 of 2 charges. The disciplinary hearing followed investigations by an independent forensic audit firm and the Special Investigating Unit into the awarding of the communications contract to Digital Vibes. Health Department spokesperson Foster Mohale says those charged were first-time offenders and says the department is satisfied that there was no evidence suggesting they benefited from the transactions. Well, Foster joins us live now to have this conversation. When do these particular sanctions take effect? Foster, thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening and good evening to the viewers of SABC, and thanks for this opportunity on behalf of the department. Yes, this marks the end of a long and protracted disciplinary hearing process, which involved the 3 senior departmental officials were implicated in the awarding of a communication contract to Digital Vibes company. Yes, these sanctions, they will be effected as soon. Like today, we have sent all this. These implicated officials the letters of the findings of this process. So as soon as they respond to the letters to confirm when are they able to resume with their duties, then that will be kicked in.
And so essentially, if they are satisfied with these outcomes and decide not to challenge them, then they come into effect. Am I correct?
Yes, definitely. But we are very confident that there won't be, we don't foresee any opportunity to challenge these sanctions, because there are legal representatives. They kept them up to date throughout the process. So if there was any opportunity to challenge, then we would have known a long time ago. But anything's possible under the sun. We'll see. We'll hear in the next few days if they are willing to, or they are deciding to challenge the sanctions.
How did the department receive these outcomes from this, this investigative, the firm that was tasked to deal with this?
Yes, as we've been announcing from the beginning, even throughout the process, that yes, the findings were very serious. Hence, we had to embark on this process, which was led by an independent senior counsel appointed through the state or the attorney through the Department of Justice. So these were very serious findings that we felt that we could not leave them as they are. We needed to have an independent process where we can validate these findings in order to ensure that those who are indeed implicated, they will have to face the music accordingly. Hence, we have to embark on this process.
The reason I ask you how the department has received this particular outcome is a statement by Nahau is extremely unhappy with this particular outcome, and I'd like to borrow from it and hear your response. They are expressing anger. They say that they're angered by this decision, but when I borrow from it, it says, "We are dismayed that the department can act in such a manner by retaining in their employ the 2 individuals that have been found guilty in a scandal that not only embarrassed and brought the department into disrepute, but also exposed the rot and malfeasance that occurred at the peak of COVID-19. It continues to say, "What infuriates us even more is that the department had assured the public that all those implicated and found to have committed wrong will be dealt with accordingly. However, the opposite instead occurred." And they say that they're not happy with this decision because it's a slap on the wrist. Your response?
Yes, definitely. We understand, and we understand the mixed reactions and the anger and the frustrations raised by our key stakeholder, which is Nahau and other sectors of society, on the sanctions that have been imposed on our officials. But also we must remember that the approach or the format of disciplinary hearing is similar to the trial, where the legal representative from both the parties, they have to present, make the submissions. And in this case, there was what we call the mitigation factors from the legal representatives of the accused officials, who our presiding office had to consider. For example, it did indicate that these are the first offenders. They've never been charged for similar or any offense since they joined the Department of Health. Number two, they have shown the highest level of remorse throughout the process. And the presiding officer did indicate that they have complied with all the instructions that were given throughout the hearing. Hence, both the legal representative of the department and the presiding officer had to consider some of these mitigating factors. Hence, we have to impose this kind of sentence that we've announced today.
So then the department is not concerned, though, about the fact that some of these allegations, even by your own admission, are very serious. I mean, you're thinking about the fact that the allegations against Dr. Pillay and, Padesi were that they had intentionally and alternatively negligently permitted the service level agreement to include a clause which was interpreted and implemented as a monthly retainer fee when it comes to this particular matter. And this was for Digital Vibes, even at some point without even having to perform any duties at all. And this could have been seen to go on for, should it have been renewed for quite some time. Both were found guilty. And Padesi was only found guilty of negligence here. This is serious. This is something that Nehawu says you have no assurances that it won't happen again.
Yes, as the department, we do admit, yes, we are very concerned about the kind of charges these colleagues have faced. But also we believe that this was a learning curve on our side in order to tighten our measures, in order to ensure that the similar incident does not occur in future. But also, as I indicated, that despite the fact that they've signed that SLA, there was any sufficient evidence to prove that they benefited from that transaction. Hence, we had to consider, or the presiding officer had to consider the mitigating factors presented by the legal representatives. And as the department, we have to also agree. We didn't dispute that sanctions as presented by the presiding officer. But so otherwise, we are very concerned about what transpired throughout the whole process, and we believe that we learn a lot from this, and we believe that we're going to tighten our systems in order to ensure that a similar incident does not happen in future, because this is very embarrassing on our side, but also on the government and the public of the country.
What does this tightening of processes, Foster, look like? Because these controls came off the rails for quite some time. So what does this tightening of controls look like at a practical level going forward?
Yeah, we are going to ensure that all the processes, especially the procurement process that involve the tender of a huge amount, like the digital VAT, the 150 million that we talked about, we ensure that all the people who are participating in the tender process, they are the people who understand the role and the roles and responsibilities and the do's and the don'ts. Also, we are going to embark on the process in order to raise awareness about the issue of procurement internally, get the experts in order to raise awareness about the procurement process internally, especially those who happen to be involved in the procurement process, because that does not mean the two officials may not be involved in the future. It depends on how the kind of a contract affects their work, the scope of work. Obviously, they will have to be involved some way or the other. So we are going to work closely with those who are experts in this field, like Treasury, Public Service Commission, Public DPSA, in order to ensure that we heighten the awareness about the procurement process and the systems, in order to ensure that the same mistake does not happen in the future.
We're almost out of time. We have 10 seconds. Please, be brief when you answer this. The City Press is reporting that in the findings of the disciplinary proceedings, the former Health Minister, Zweli Mkhize, who resigned last year, was mentioned only 3 times in Pillay's testimony, and none of the charged officials implicated him. He was cited as having approved 2 work plans, one in January 2020, another one in June of that year. Can you confirm what this report is saying?
Look, unfortunately, I cannot confirm that because I was not part of the deliberations at the disciplinary hearing. I was not privy to the discussions at the hearing, so I may not be able to confirm blow by blow what transpired during the hearing. Hence, I can only talk about the final report, which was presented by the presiding officer to the department with the sanctions.
All right, Foster, we'll have to leave it there. We're out of time, but thank you so much for your time this evening. That was the National Health Department Media Relations Director, Foster Mohale.